Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast, episode 1012. My interview with Linda Wawrzyniak, and we're discussing her book, $1 Million Adjustments. Enjoy. Hi, Linda. Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here today.
Hello, Lee. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Let's just hope this audio quality holds out for us for this interview.
We will hope. Keep our fingers crossed.
We're on the other side of the world from each other. Whereabouts are you located?
I'm actually in the United States in northern Indiana.
Northern Indiana.
The Midwest.
The Midwest. And what's the weather looking like over your way?
Well, it's actually quite beautiful. We have sunny skies. We are just now beginning to enter fall, so we have good bonfire weather. It's starting to get a little crisp at night, and the leaves are changing colors. It's really pretty, really very pretty.
Oh, lovely. And you get outside and have a few fires, do you?
We do. In the evening, we try to have some fire, and we gather around, some friends or just family, and we try to have a little music and try to look at the stars. Simple pleasures.
Simple pleasures. Is this fairly traditional there for a lot of people, or is it just a family sort of tradition you guys carry?
It's actually, a lot of people do that this time of year. People, especially where I live, they do a lot of bonfires, kind of part of the fall events or activities that people look forward to. That and going, to pumpkin patches or, doing something like a corn maze if there's families with little ones. The fall is a really beautiful time.
I love those cultural aspects. I feel like we miss that in Australia, and maybe it's because we don't have the long history here, or I'm not sure what it is. Maybe the seasons aren't quite as dramatic. I don't know what it is, but I remember I lived in Japan for a while, and certainly autumn or spring, there was always these, cultural things they just did, and it happened everywhere, no matter where you were, and I just loved it. I gave me a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's like Christmas here, we celebrate Christmas very well. And Easter, and that's really about it.
Yeah, those are great events, and those are fun. I mean, people need those just to celebrate, get together, enjoy the change of season. Where you are, is there much of a change of season or not really?
No, really, no. We've got on the Sunshine Coast in Australia, midway down the east coast, is where we're located. We've got almost perfect weather year round.
Well, that's not bad either. That sounds pretty nice. 20
degrees Celsius, 25 degrees. It gets a bit hotter in summer, a bit cooler in winter, but the averages are really consistent, and it's usually sunny. So it's the Sunshine Coast. Yeah,
well, that sounds like a pretty good deal too, I have to say.
Yeah, a lot of people love it. So, but look, Linda, tell us a little bit about your background, your story. I know we've got a new book out, which I'm excited to get into. I think that's the reason why we connected. The book is called $1 Million Adjustments, The Power of Small Changes on Performance, Productivity, and Peace. Interesting you throw in peace there at the end, because I'm all about performance and productivity, and certainly peace is a thing that I think surrounds that. But tell us a bit about your background story.
Sure, I'd love to. I'm going to jump into the most significant part. And I would say that in the last 15 years, I've been working with professional baseball. In that time frame, what I did was I really paid attention to what made an athlete succeed. And I was around a lot of young men. I got involved in baseball by accident. And I was,
What do you mean by accident?
Never played.
What happened there?
Well,
Someone throw a ball at you?
I've never played Major League Baseball, right, as a woman. So they were starting to have a lot of international athletes come in from Latin America. They were signing them, and they said, "Hey, we need. We're noticing there's a problem culturally." So they said we need to make sure we kind of make sure they learn English and they understand the culture, and we work through this transitional period so they can be the most effective on the field.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So I was called because of some of the work I had done prior, which was I actually had some I worked with a school corporation doing some things with science, technology, engineering, and math, but I also was fully bilingual. So the Department of Education, I worked with them, and so people knew me in the education space. So they asked if I wanted to help this local team with a couple players, learn some English, and help them adjust to the new culture. So I said, sure, that sounds great. My son was like 7 at the time and he loved baseball. I said, yeah, I think he would enjoy this, and I would too. So it was only like 20 hours for the whole summer. It was very small, but I immediately saw that there was we needed to do some things that weren't there. So I began creating curriculums, hiring teachers, making a system to the whole thing. And even in that, I realized that the guys quicker were not necessarily the smarter guys. And that's what everybody in baseball thought. It was really the guys who were really able to learn the quickest were the guys who could make great adjustments, especially after they failed or when they
Sorry, the guys that could learn the quickest?
Mm-hmm.
So you said? So the guys that learn the quickest were the...
Yeah, were the guys who could make good adjustments. Right. So they also happened to be the guys on the field that were able to make good adjustments. Those were the guys that ended up going to the big leagues, who kept climbing. So there was this idea about adjustments that I was noticing. So you asked me about my background. Part of it was the educational piece. But my training in school, my first level of training I was trained as an engineer.
Right.
Yeah. And so I was really, the systemic approach to things and process analysis and failure modes, effects analysis. How do we plan for failure so that we can succeed was really what I was doing as an engineer. And then as I left that, I became a mom, and I said, I don't want to go back to that. And then I just started doing a little teaching, and that's kind of how this whole thing came about. So really, I didn't expect to be in baseball. I was just doing, something completely different, and it kind of found me, which I'm happy about.
That's cool. Yeah, and you're passionate about the sport, I imagine. You must be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially when you know the players, it makes it so different too,
How did you find the collaboration? Sorry, just to offshoot, but a collaboration of your engineering background and then the part of coaching or training in the baseball arena, the crossover there, and I guess what were your learnings there in that period where you're crossing those things over? Because I feel that from a lot of the research I've done and books I've read, is that some powerful creative ideas and talents come from those entwinements of backgrounds and educations.
Yeah, it's just it was just dumb luck at the time that I kind of got involved. There was a big, I don't know, did you ever see or hear about the movie Moneyball?
Yeah, I think I've watched it once or twice ages ago. Okay. It was a really good movie.
Yeah, and it kind of tells a story of how statistics suddenly became the gold standard in baseball and sports in general. And so I just happened to be at the right place at the right time because I actually, I had a measurement statistical background myself and understood that type of variables and analysis. So it really made sense. But the thing that I really saw was that people are still people, and we can measure things all day long, but people still people are amazing creatures, and we can't look at them all the same. We can learn some things on patterns, but we have to understand that everyone does something differently, and that's a good thing. It's how we're made. So I really try to look at the person, not just the cold numbers, which is kind of what was happening, and try to develop a way to find a peaceful approach to the numbers to help them be more productive and perform higher at a higher level, but still honor them as a person, if that makes sense.
Right. Hence the title of your book, Performance, Productivity, and Peace.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. It's interesting. Do you think that because I think the world at the moment is very much driven by data, statistics, algorithms, the numbers, and perhaps we are now looking, which is great for many reasons, performance and productivity wise, but perhaps we are missing that human element. And I think even with COVID right now, I think there's a big part of that that's really not humane.
Oh, there's no doubt. I think that people are not machines, and we have our own, we can do things to improve. We can measure things to make us more productive. But in the end, we are made special. Our DNA is important in different ways, and everyone has different DNA. So we can't look at, everyone exactly the same. So that's why we have to understand how they make adjustments and what we can do to help them make better adjustments. It's funny because I started doing this test. I created this test way before COVID was ever a thing. And we were, studying, and what we really were looking at was how does a person make an adjustment through failure, but also in times of uncertainty. Like how, if you give them and change, if you give them a test that they're, it's very uncertain what the outcome is, how will they work through that? And of course, uncertainty creates great anxiety, especially when you're being tested on it, which kind of we all are right now in some weird way. And so it gave us an idea as to, okay, how does a person power through that? And how does a person continue to go through? And then we saw a lot of patterns in that. And there's never a situation that we'll always have control. And I think that's, we have to learn more about how can we adjust through whatever situation we're in to make it peaceful for us, because I think there's never a situation where it's always 100%, where we always have control,
Yeah, no, exactly.
And so.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm sorry. No, I was just saying that's why the idea of adjustment is so relevant. I never thought it would be so relevant in 2020 and 2021 because I was doing it years ago. I was studying it years ago, and I really didn't. There was many times I thought I was going to stop doing it.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was supposed to keep going. And so who would have thought that now in the world is going through a lot of great adjustment. And I think that creates a lot of anxiety and stress. And so the idea is to say, okay, how can we bring joy into this? How can we have some, how can we understand this in ourselves a little bit more? It's no different than if you're a pro athlete and you're facing an amazing competitor, or, you're facing a turbulent time. It's really kind of the same emotions and the same need to understand how you make adjustments.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to get into this, how we become better at adjusting. But right now, I guess in the elite athletes and things like that, and peak performers, experts in certain industries and fields, maybe have trained themselves really, really well to adjust well. And perhaps some people are more, just from their upbringing, better able to deal with change as well than others. But I get a sense that we're almost being dumbed down to a point that, in society, we're not good any longer at adjusting. And that's not obviously good for the individual and probably not good for humanity, but it's good in a lot of ways for control and conformity and consumerism and the way society's set up. Would you think that's a fair comment, or?
100%. I think that standardization is something, I saw as an engineer, and standardization benefits the company that's creating standards, and it can benefit the person, the consumer as well. But that's why I say, every person, every athlete, we all have a uniqueness to us. You can standardize to a point. So the best thing to do, in my opinion, and this is something that, I was trained in very well, is we're not always going to see the same. We are going to have variables. And so how do we maximize the system even with variables and in a way that makes sense,
Yeah.
Does that, and I think machines, well, of course we're talking about machines, but people, it's more, I think the word harmony is better instead of like standardization, because,
Yep.
People aren't going to be all standardized. It's not possible.
No, impossible, you would think.
Mm-hmm. Which is a good thing.
But perhaps, maybe not impossible. Maybe they can bring us to a point where we're very standardized, and maybe that's the way that we're moving. But yeah, I think it's probably
I don't
the best
think
way.
So.
No,
I don't believe that's true.
Yeah. Why is that?
I think, well, because at the end of the day, one of the things that I've had to really do is look at how we learn and how our brain works, the different cognitive processes. And one of the highest forms of thinking is creativity. And creativity is not something that we all have that in different, forms or different levels.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you can standardize someone's creativity. I guess it depends on what you're trying to standardize. But if you're talking about output of a person and what their impact is, I don't think you can standardize that 100%. I just don't think you can.
No, but if you look at creativity as one of those, attributes that make us so different from one another, and I guess it's an ability to think as well. Those things I wouldn't think you can standardize, but you could certainly numb those attributes down to a point where they're not being used as effectively as they could. So creativity, now you look at kids on iPads watching, YouTube or whatever endlessly, they don't have that time to go and play and be creative. So their creativity, their strength of creativity is lessened, I believe. Same with the ability to think. If AI and algorithms and that is helping make decisions for us, and we are less, able to think for ourselves and make our own logical decisions, then those two aspects that make us essentially different will be more and more standardized, potentially.
Yeah, and I've heard, I've definitely been exposed to these thinkings because of my work in as an engineer. And we were looking at AI back in the 80s. They were just beginning to talk about it. So, I've been familiar with the concept for a long time, but, having had conversations with a lot of engineers around it, I think it's great in theory. And I think there's a lot of potential, but I think at the end of the day, we're not figuring in the power of the human being. And I think, we are such a powerful species that I just don't think there's any way they can standardize every aspect of humanity. There's just no way.
No, you're right.
Yeah, because at some point somebody has to control the actual programs, so to speak, and there's just too much. There's too many variables. I guess that's the way of looking at it. There's just way too many variables.
Still way too many.
Yeah, even when I looked at it, like, just with the small, when we're looking at the entire population of the world, I tested a lot of people, but even still, that's not a drop. That's a drop in the hat compared to the number of people in the world, and there were a lot of variables. So when you think of all the different cultures, all the different nationalities and the ages and everything, I just don't think there's way too many variables. Yeah,
you're probably right. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. So what do you do to help people with their performance and productivity, whilst keeping in mind those differences in the individuals? Is it all about just helping them be better at dealing with change and being a bit more resistant and resilient?
Well, what we found is that there are 5 basic elements of adjustment when we
Okay.
broke it down. So
Yep.
the first one is beliefs, and that's a big one. And belief, but I'm going to use it in terms of performance and productivity.
Yep.
It's basically how well you think you can actually make the adjustment. So, and there are different things that inform our beliefs. One of them is called subjective probability, like looking back saying, hey, I failed at that before, so I'm going to fail at that again. I mean, we carry those things around. So our beliefs usually get cemented based on what happened to us in the past, however, or what we think might happen. So if we can hover, sometimes we just need to hover on our beliefs before we cement them in and kind of wait and see. That makes us a better adjuster. And then,
what do you mean hover on the beliefs?
Well, instead of cementing it in one way or the other, well, unless it's positive, but if it's really negative, it can stop our adjustment process. Unless we really don't want to adjust, and that's in the book too. There's a point where we do draw the line on adjustments, and I think that's not a bad thing either, based on the type of adjuster you are and what the adjustment can do. So, but just in general, so belief is one area. The second area is internal timing. So we all have, internal timing. So we all have a timing that we kind of live by. We have this, like, for example, if I ask you, if I were to start a stopwatch and I were to say, okay, at 4 seconds, I'm going to say start. And when you think 4 seconds has gone by, then you tell me to stop.
Uh-huh.
And I would look at your timing. And so if it's faster than 4 seconds, I would say you tend to have a faster internal timing. Or if it's slower, it's basically how you perceive time.
Interesting.
Yeah, and everyone does it differently. It's fascinating. I've done this to a lot of people. And then what we do is
Or do I know too much now?
Yeah, I can absolutely do it to you. Let me get my clock here. Hold on a second.
I might rig the results.
No, I don't think you really can. It's kind of, it's kind of innate. Let's see. Let me get my clock.
What do you want me to do? You want me to count to 4?
Count to 4. Let me get hold on. I might have to go get my cell phone because I don't think I can do it in this. Hold on for a second.
Timer. Yep.
Yeah, but I'll just talk to you about it when I'm So then when we know what our internal timing is, then what we can do is say, okay, most likely you're going to, your adjustment is going to be, the speed at which you can adjust has a lot to do with this internal timing.
Right.
So, and then what we do is we work on that. Once we know that in an athlete, we say, okay, that is a key piece of how fast you're going to be able to move through this. Or not.
So if someone has a high rate of internal timing, does that mean they're faster at adjusting and therefore better at adjusting than someone with a slower rate?
Yes, it could also mean that if they have a faster, it could also mean that they decide faster that they don't want to. So it could go either way. So let me grab here it is. Okay. So, all right. Okay, so I'm going to say start, and when I do, you tell me when to stop when you get to 4 seconds, okay?
Okay.
So don't look at your phone.
No, I've just got my eyes shut. I'll just shut my eyes.
Okay, shut your eyes. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Go.
Okay.
That was pretty close. It was 4:20.
4:20, there you go.
So I would say you're pretty close. Maybe a little fast, but I would say you're pretty close. That's good. Now, do you think you were trying extra hard since?
Yeah, maybe there's some part of that in my head. I tried to not, and I just tried to count to 4.
Yeah, you did a good. I mean, you're pretty close. Slightly fast, but pretty close. So you would probably then be able to make. I mean, so your internal timing is it would depend on what stops it. So certain things can stop it, whether it's your belief or let's get into the other three other elements. The other one is strategic action. So whether you're on the offense or defense, if you're on the offense, you are like to go and attack something, and after every failure or uncertainty, the way you make an adjustment has something to do with your strategy. Yeah. You're either going to be in the defense or you're going to be in the offense.
Okay, I'm just trying to find a pen that works here. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yep, sorry. Yep, continue.
No problem.
So defense or offense?
Mm-hmm. So some
people,
of
us are wired some ways than others?
Yeah, no doubt. And you will decide your strategy based on the next two things. Well, some of it has to do with beliefs, okay? But the other two things are what I call information synthesis. It's just a fancy way of saying how you take information from your environment in order to use that, how you create information from your environment to create what you think you should do, how your adjustment's going to look. So right now, what a lot of young people are doing, in general, is they have shallow and narrow information. And what they mean is they're so used to scrolling an iPhone or Instagram or Google, whatever it is, they just get constant information. So there's very shallow information, and it's very, it's not very, it's very wide. So they're getting all kinds of informational sources, but it doesn't go very deep. They don't get very deep into it. It's just a lot of it. And then there's also people who have narrow. When you have to make a good adjustment, sometimes you really need to get narrow and deep, depending on what the adjustment is. So how you synthesize information has something to do with your adjustment. And does that make sense?
So what is better? Is it better to have a narrow, have that, what do you call it, the narrow information where you have a lot of information but not deep, or is it better to have deep information?
It really depends on the adjustment itself. So, right. If it's something that you have to do something rather quickly, and we've learned that there are, after testing so many people, there are 7 different basically types of adjusters. So each one does this a little differently. And you can take the quiz, so to speak, in the book. It kind of gives you an idea of which kind of adjuster you are. And then okay, so maybe I need to, in this situation, maybe I need to go more narrow and deep, that kind of thing. And really the last element is knowledge. And that's really what you need sometimes to be able to go narrow and deep. So it's different from having a lot of information. What you really need is knowledge. So in order to make a good adjustment, you might need some kind of deeper piece of knowledge in order to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so just run through those 5 just in recap again, in summary. So belief.
Yep, absolutely. So we have beliefs, internal timing, strategic actions, information synthesis, and knowledge. And based on those 5 elements, we can determine what kind of adjuster you are. And those 7 are based on baseball names because it's fun. Okay. And so you might be an all-star, you might be a maverick, you might be a free agent, you might be a steady Eddie. So we have different names.
So with those, and I'll leave that for the book, I guess. Encourage people to get out there and pick up a copy to have a read and find out what type of adjuster you are.
Right.
Are there necessarily better adjusters than others, or is it again just that we're different? But I guess when it comes to performance and productivity, some of those adjusters must be the ideal to create.
Yeah, there's actually a chapter on the $1 million adjusters. So we saw that there were certain traits that there are some adjustment patterns and that are a little bit more, we see them more in high performers, but then there's the cream of the crop, the $1 million adjusters who kind of stay with something for a lot longer, and they stay in Major League Baseball for a while. They continue to do things that surprise people. These are the $1 million adjusters. So
that's what we want to focus on.
Yes, you could be a free agent in your adjustment pattern, but you could strive to become the $1 million adjuster because, and you can do it. You can optimize your pattern, and that's what we've been able to do for a lot of players. We've been able to see, okay, he's a prospect. They paid X amount of dollars for him, and they realize, after they have him for a little while, okay, he doesn't make great adjustments. So how can we tweak that a little bit? And again, adjustment isn't a change. We're not changing who he is. We are simply modifying something to help him succeed more, right, for him. So based on who he is and not trying to change who he is, we're just trying to help bring out what he can do. And so that is some of the work that I've been doing. And then that helps us to get them to the $1 million adjustment.
That's cool. So what can you sort of summarize what defines $1 million adjuster around those 5 key points?
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is in the book too, but there are certain things that we've seen, certain traits. So one of them is that they are very decisive. And that's not surprising, right? You would think. But in order to be decisive, there have to be a lot of things that come into play. All 5 of those elements, if you think about it, have got to be in complete harmony. You have to be able to have a belief that what you're going to do is going to work. Yeah. You have to be able to do it quickly, or, so your internal timing, you have to be your strategy has to be offensive or even defensive, but you have to know what it is right away. You have to have knowledge and information synthesis. I mean, all of those things, right?
Yeah.
So decisiveness is a really big one. That's one of them. Then the other thing is that we see in one of those, I'm going to pull it, is that they also maximize time. So in a way that they're not wasting time, and they're also not just overdoing it. They know how to optimize and maximize time. Right. And not everybody can do that. No. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the second trait.
That's a great one. Yep.
Mm-hmm. The third one is that they can sustain attention after failure or even in the face of uncertainty. So when we experience failure or uncertainty, we want to shut down. It's stressful, and sometimes it's hard to power through. But $1 million adjuster, what we see is they can sustain their attention, even in the face of that.
Failure and adversity would be the opposite, like when you have success or a win, to still sustain attention as well, because I guess it'd be the opposite. You might lose track.
Right.
But that might motivate too.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah.
I like that. Decisiveness, maximize time, sustain attention.
Mm-hmm. And the last one is they see solutions and relevant correlations. So they're not stuck on, oh my goodness, the sky is falling. They see solutions. And then they understand the correlation, like how this one thing can correlate to this other thing, and how they can make both of those things work to see solutions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they, and they're also growing new solutions. So, they tend to recycle and perfect strategies that have proven to be effective in the past. So that's comes from kind of a good memory, and also understanding how to make things work. Yeah.
The $1 million adjustment, there's a goal. So what do you do to help people with what can we do? And again, I don't want to go into too much depth because I'm conscious of the time that we've got left, but what are some key takeaways that we can share, that you can share with the audience to help us move towards this $1 million adjuster?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to use the word adjustment. And I think people don't understand the power of that word.
Okay.
We're always adjusting. So there's nothing wrong with that. We have to be comfortable being able to adjust and not feel like it's a lot of effort. Oh my gosh, there's something else I have to do. I think just the understanding of the fluidity of life, you have to be comfortable with that because it isn't always going to be the same, right?
I wonder when you find comfort with that, because I mean that is the reality. You're dead right. I mean, life is constantly changing. You're constantly needing to adjust, and I think I feel, I guess, as I've learnt more and gained more knowledge and experience in life, that I feel more comfortable just with dealing with that. And I think a lot of the people that I look up to, it usually seems to be older people that have experienced more of life. Generally seem to just go with the flow a bit more.
Yeah, and that's that peace, the part of peace. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think being okay with that whole concept and then knowing what kind of adjuster you are is also a good thing, because then you'll know what your reaction will tend to be, and you won't be you'll know how to work within that. The one thing that we do for high performers is we take a look at their PAR pattern. We actually, we'll test them and we'll see where it breaks down. We give them this, we can see about when we think it's going to break down in them and how it's going to break down. So then we give them some strategies, and usually it has something to do around those 5 elements, the ones that we talked about. So we do some very interesting things. We kind of mix timing in, depending on where it breaks down for each person. But some people need to increase their timing. They might sit too long before they make a decision, and they might need to make that go a little faster. So one thing we've done is we've taken like a metronome. Are you familiar with what? Okay. And we give them this, kind of noise in the background, and we have them do a certain task, and we try to disrupt whatever their pattern is to help them see it and feel it. If they need a change in that area.
Right.
So there's a lot of things we've done just depending on where it breaks down.
So that's having the support of, a coach or an assessor helping them with these facets. And is there anything we can do to, individually around timing or making faster decisions? Is it just becoming more aware of, hey, I've got a decision to make here and I need to try and, resolve this quicker than I normally would?
Yeah, there's actually a chapter 6 is called Making Better Adjustments. It gives you some ideas on how to train your adjustment pattern.
Right. Yeah.
So that's, because that's a very valid question. Okay, so this is where I'm at. Now, what if I want to change it a little bit or optimize it? I say that I talk about the elements cocktail, where different strengths, everything those 5 elements kind of mix into the cocktail, and they come in at different times. They have different potencies. So knowing this talks about that a little bit, when the potency, depending on how often you see a failure, how often you have the failure, or if there's a huge uncertainty and there continues to be more uncertainty, how this changes the potency of the cocktail. And so you can then change it based on what you're seeing.
Yeah. I like that. And any final takeaways from the book before we run out there and grab a copy?
Well, I think that my biggest takeaway is that we are in a time of change. And athletes, this book was written about high performers, but right now we're all high performers. And the reason is because we have to sustain attention, sustain our motivation, sustain ourselves during this. We're all in a game, and like baseball, and we're in the. I'm not sure what inning we're in, but if we understand that we can succeed based on looking at our teammates, working with our teammates, and also definitely not being afraid to make adjustments and not to have fear. I think we need to be bold, and I think we need to be know that we have the power to make these adjustments and that they can impact others in a good way too. So look to your team, We may not, it's a long game and it's a long season. So don't worry about one inning that things didn't go well. We got the next inning.
That's great advice too. I think it's too common to focus on the short term rather than the long term game.
Right. I was once told, a wonderful coach once told me that a game is won in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, not in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, so that's because, the real champions come out. They don't give up. They don't quit.
You keep going.
Mm-hmm. So when we know how to.
Yeah, you go.
I was just going to say, when we can make a great adjustment, and know that things are fluid, we can still have impact.
Yeah, and I think going down to high performing athletes and people like that, I think everyone wants to be better at their performance in whatever you do, like whether it's your home duties or work duties or just life in general. Who doesn't want to perform better at life?
Exactly.
I think that'd just be. I don't know. I think you're just not aware of that fact that that's part of human nature, is to keep progressing and keep improving.
Absolutely. And we have the power to do that. That's how we were made. I mean, when we were born, we had to learn how to walk, and that required a lot of adjustments. When we were, we had to learn how to talk, and that required a lot of adjustments. Some of us did it faster than others, but we all got there. So it's just a matter of, it's knowing that's how we're made. We're made to be adjusters.
Yeah. Made to be adjusters. The $1 million adjusters. What what sort of routines, rituals do you have in your life that helps you with your success?
Personally, I try to focus on what I know I can control. I try to focus on I tend to be a faithful person, so I look at what I'm supposed to be doing. I spend time with positive. I try to spend a lot of time thinking positive thoughts and being around positive people, but also giving encouragement. And we all need to be filled up now and then. So I try to look to sources that help me to get that, to stay in a positive place, because it's easy to go the other way. I also exercise, and I try to connect with people whenever I can, even if it's just through Zoom or Skype or whatever it is, in the backyard, wave to somebody. And there's so many ways to connect, and also just to, eat well, sleep, all the things that were just basic things that we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Taking care of your health, taking care of your brain.
Yeah.
Connecting with people.
Yeah, having I have a pet who I like to, play Frisbee with, just things like that. We all have to be mindful of the things that we can do and watch our mind, because our mind is really important, and we have to be positive as much as we can, because we don't want us to go into a place that's negative for too long. I mean, we all do eventually, right? But here and there, but we have to stay away from the negativity.
No, 100%. Switch off the news. That's why we're surrounded by fear and negativity and things like that. And I can't agree more. That having that positive influence around you more constantly is going to drive you in a better direction than the opposite.
Yeah, and that's why I think music, rhythm is really important. That's the internal timing. Rhythm is important. So having rhythm in your life is really important, because when uncertainty happens, it kind of upsets your rhythm. And so whether that's just having music that with a beat that you like, everyone has, it's funny because everyone has a different type of music they tend to like, and it's because they like a certain beat, and they probably don't even know it. It has to do with the rhythms in their internal timing. So, music is a really important thing to have, and so is just like a beat in your home, even if there's no music to it, something that kind of regulates your own internal timing, so it doesn't make you go, doesn't stop it too often, because fear and anxiety and uncertainty can actually create internal timing disruptions. So if you have an audible, reminder in the background, that's also a very healthy thing. You would be surprised how big of an impact it actually has.
Yeah, I like it. Do you have any productivity hacks that help you in your day-to-day life?
Any productivity hacks, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I definitely have come to grips with my own adjustment pattern. I tend to be a maverick, what it's called. So I make sure I know when how that impacts my productivity. So that's why I have to be very careful. I have like a high confidence in certain things, and then at certain points, if something doesn't happen, it can create doubt. So for me, in order to be most productive, I have to erase as much doubt as I can.
Right.
And that's what I do for my productivity. It makes a big difference.
How do you go about erasing doubt that you might have? I guess it's aware first of the doubt.
Well, believe it or not, I focus on the timing instead of the doubt. So I push my timing. I make my timing go faster. When I want to be more productive, I hold myself to higher levels of timing accountability, because then I don't have time for doubt.
Good. I like that. Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Set yourself goals and have them come sooner. Yeah, okay. I like it. Look, where can people reach you and find out a bit more about you, Linda?
Well, I am on Instagram at Linda L. Wawrzyniak. I can also be
in the links, guys. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. I also have a website. It's majorleagueconsulting.com. So if they want to send me an email, they can send me an email at linda@majorleagueconsulting.com.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Those are the two best ways. You can send me a DM on Instagram if you want, or I'm also on Clubhouse, if anybody listens to Clubhouse.
Cool. Well, Linda, it's been fantastic having you here today. Thanks for sharing. And what a fantastic book too. So I'm going to stick the link in the show notes, guys listening out there. Make sure you check it out at thehiddenwhy.com and grab yourself a copy. $1 Million Adjustments.
Thank you so much for having me, Lee. It's been really nice to get to know you and talk with you. And I want you to know that I'm praying for Australia.
Thank you so much, Linda, and appreciate your time today. Guys out there, check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon. Thanks, guys, for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. I hope you love what you're hearing. If you like this episode, guys, or any of the episodes that you're listening to here at The Hidden Why, please do me a favor by sharing it. You can share it with your families. You can share it with your loved ones. You can do that by using your favorite social media channels, using the icons on the platform that you're listening to The Hidden Why podcast. Also, guys, if you're a fan of the show, please connect with me. Connect with me at thehiddenwhy.com. I love to hear from you. I love to converse with the people that listen to this show to find out what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, and perhaps if they have any questions or feedback for the show as well. You can stay up to date with all that I'm releasing here, guys. I do a solo show every Monday, a 3-minute thought every Thursday. I do 2 interviews a week on Wednesday and a Saturday, and a book review every Friday. You can stay up to date with all that by subscribing to my newsletter at thehiddenwhy.com. Just enter your email address there, and also subscribing to the podcast on the platform that you choose to listen to your podcasts. You can also support the show, guys, by using the Amazon links at thehiddenwhy.com. So if you like books, you can get all the books that I review there, and anything else really that you like to purchase through Amazon. So use that link, it helps support the show. And we've also got a deal with Audible, guys. Audible is a fantastic way to listen to all your favorite books. We've got a deal with them so you can get 2 free books when you subscribe subscribe to a 30-day free trial. So check that out again at thehiddenwhy.com. Guys, that's it from me. You know what to do. Go out there, breathe more passion into every single moment. Do everything with greater purpose, and in doing so you will discover your hidden why. This is The Hidden Why. My name is Lee Martinuzzi. Until next time, peace, passion and purpose. See you soon.